Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of Things That Matter with Martie McNabb. For those of you following along over the years now, you know that I get fascinated with the stories that get attached to the things that we surround ourselves with, the things that we keep, the things that matter, and the things that we will leave behind. In essence, this is kind of like our human museum, right? It's like the exhibition that would be left when we're gone. So, but one of the things that I am really feel passionate about is that it's important to tell the stories. It's not just the things. You can't just leave things behind without people, your loved ones, and your friends and family and extended people, even in the future, to hear the stories of these things. So I'm excited today to have my host, my host, my guest, Deb. Is it Krier?
Yes.
I said it right.
Yay.
On this episode, and I'm grateful to Noemi Beers, who we connected through
Mhm.
LinkedIn somehow. Yep, all those things that happen. And she has a wonderful service of podcast. Um, what is it called? Podcast guesting or
Yes, she does. She
matches, like a
connects
matchmaker.
podcasts with guests. Yep.
Yes, she's a matchmaker,
Hmm.
basically.
Yes.
And so she's matched me with Mary Beth of one of the
Hmm.
previous podcast episodes here. And now today, she's connected me to Deb. So I am thrilled to have her on. And her story, well, stories, her life has been full. It is so full of experiences. And I know specifically one, her trying not to die, that live is one of the things that we connected with. And as many of you do know, I have been very, very honored and blessed to be starting to be surrounded by many people in the end of life fields in death care and I just think it's this is an important part of legacy
Hmm.
work is to talk about all of this and you know what I love especially about Deb, I can tell already, is that just like my friend Gail Rubin, the doyen of death, she uses a bit of humor to help in this process, just a little bit, yes, a lot. So welcome to this episode. And needless to say, I want to know what you brought to show and tell.
Well, Marty, thank you so much. I'm very honored to be a guest. Now, I do have a question for everybody. Are we all going matchmaker, make me a match? Right? That just was going through my head. And we love that. I mean, we are such an interconnected world. And it's so fun because, as we were talking, I was thinking, I don't know what people would think who come after me about what I have for show and tell. Would they even know what it is? And so, here I'm holding it up. It is this lavender colored knitted pillow, is maybe the best way to put it. And it just looks like this cute little, maybe a pillow for your cat, right? Right. It's just that size, but it is not. It is a bosom. It is my fake boob. And it is named Lucy or Ethel because I have two. So I'm not sure if I have Lucy here or Ethel. But what it stands for me is this big change in my life when I was going merrily along and the doctor said, oh, guess what? And it really I went through a lot, and we'll talk about that just a little bit because it's a really huge story, so we don't want to get into too much detail. But like one of the things, so I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I decided to have a double mastectomy without reconstructive surgery, partially because I'm old and who needs those anymore, right? They get in the way. But your clothes fit better, and people tend to look at you a little funny if you don't have girls. And so these came, now here's the cool thing, these came from a nonprofit. It is an organization called Knitted Knockers. Right? And so knittedknockers.org, and you tell them the size that you want, and they send you the appropriate little form. And so, but yeah, to me, this is this, because this is the new me. The new me kind of isn't always part of my body.
So let's see, I am going to, there we go. And to just switch on our view. So now you had told me a little bit when we were talking before we started the recording about your other pair. So like, so interestingly enough, I think it was within the last 2 weeks, I was on LinkedIn
Mhm,
and there was another woman who had been diagnosed
mhm,
with
mhm,
breast cancer, and she had lovely group of
mhm,
friends,
mhm,
um, and family, extended
mhm,
family,
mhm.
business colleagues, all of this. And oh, she actually, that's right. Now she actually works in the hospital, and
Ah.
she worked
Mhm,
with
mhm,
cancer patients.
mhm,
So it was when she was diagnosed with breast cancer and she started telling people,
mhm,
she was pretty shocked about
mhm,
how people pulled away.
mhm. Right. Yeah,
There
it's like it's not contagious, folks.
did you so just share a
Mhm.
little bit about that and then I'll yeah.
I did. It really was a shock. Now I'm a little bit like your friend. Many years ago, I worked for an oncologist and I worked for the American Cancer Society. So I know just enough to be dangerous. But it was one of those things where when I started telling people, there were some who, I'd been friends with for many, many years, dropped off the face of the earth, did not want to talk about it, did not want to do anything. And I thought, well, obviously that friendship was done and I just hadn't realized it.
Right.
My best friend didn't respond to my text messages. And I got a little hurt. Oh. And then she texted me and she said, I'm having trouble dealing with this. Give me a little bit. Okay,
That's
that was
important.
good. And so then she, got her head around it. And, she lives in Denver. I live in Atlanta. She came out twice to help with things. And so she was, but, and I think that's the thing is people don't know what to do. And part of it is, okay, are you fragile? If I hug you, will I hurt you?
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to bring up that subject. Well, hello, that elephant is there. At least say, Marty, I'm really sorry you're going through this.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that it's going on, and then you can go on to something else. But it really has been, the shocking and but in a good way too.
Yeah.
People who I didn't even think knew I existed have been some of my biggest supporters, because I was initially diagnosed back in 2015, and have been dealing with this now for 9 years.
9 years.
But yeah, I mean, it's been incredible. The people who will say, how are you doing, what's going on, send me texts, all of those. But yeah, it's kind of bizarre how people take it. And I think a big part of it is it kind of brings our own mortality home.
I think
And I think it was that way with especially the people who were my age. They're like, no, we don't want to we don't want to deal with this.
and because it's close, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
you worked with an
Mm-hmm.
oncologist, it was
Right.
somebody else. You worked
Mm-hmm.
with them.
Mm-hmm.
Then you were working at the American
Mm-hmm.
Cancer and
Right.
so it's
Mm-hmm.
education.
Mm-hmm.
And but when you say,
Mm-hmm.
like this nurse was saying,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one who has
Mm-hmm.
cancer. It
Right.
just like you said, it brings that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that self-mortality, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also that this is somebody precious in your life
Yes. Yeah.
and you don't,
Mm-hmm.
so I love what your friend
Mm-hmm.
did was like,
Mm-hmm.
give me a minute.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Mm-hmm.
not, I can't send a quick text back.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to like that's all
Mm-hmm.
good. But
Right.
but one of the things that this nurse did was she ended up doing a poll or a boob naming contest.
See, I love it. I love it. She's my kind of people. Mm-hmm.
So and allowed using humor, as
Mm-hmm.
we mentioned. So my
Right.
friend Gail
Mm-hmm.
Rubin, Doyen of Death, uses humor to
Mm-hmm.
talk about death,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
education, end of life planning, and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Because when we're talking about these life and death things,
Mm-hmm.
it it can be overwhelming, and
Mhm.
using humor can help
Right.
that. So
Well,
she,
and it helps us, there are physiological things that humor helps us with.
yeah.
Endorphins are released. It helps our blood pressure, all sorts of things. So it's okay to laugh.
Yeah. Well, I can tell that that is so important to you. And one of the things I think I saw some saying years ago, before they were called memes, where it was, if you were in a room with all, like if there was one room with all of my friends in it, you, there's absolutely nothing in common with
Hmm.
anybody. Like,
Hmm.
I have people from every kind
Right.
of walk of
Hmm.
life, which I absolutely love.
Hmm.
But the one thing that they all have in common is they make me laugh.
Right.
I can laugh with them,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So it's,
Right.
and that's helpful for
Hmm.
healing and all kinds
Hmm.
of things.
Right.
So congratulations on this nine-year
Yeah.
journey.
Hmm.
And one last thing before I'm going to invite you to
Hmm.
share a little bit more about your work and how my listeners can reach you and get to know more about you. But you had mentioned pre-interview
Hmm.
about your other pair, your
Hmm.
fancier pair,
Yes, my
and
fancier pair.
your
Hmm.
fancier pair,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
you mentioned the thing about like when you dress up, like what,
Yes.
and then tell their names. I
Yeah.
would love
So,
that.
I actually still have a port in my shoulder because I am still in active treatment. And when you have prosthetics, fancy or not, you typically get a special type of bra and it has pockets in it because you don't want the girls wandering off. And but the strap goes right across my port, and so it hurts. But I tell people, if I have gone out with shoes on and boobs on, it's an important meeting. But yeah, so I have Lucy and Ethel here, and then Thelma and Louise, because I just thought that sounded more dignified, right? And and those were the ones that the insurance company paid for. They're these fancy plasticky icky things. I mean, they're just not comfy. These little squishy pillows. You really could take it out and take a nap. Um, but yeah, Thelma and Louise, and
Love it.
and then I ran out of names of good female partners, right? That's a
Right.
shame, right? We got, but yeah, so we have Thelma and Louise and we have Lucy and Ethel. And now people who know me, and if they see that I have the girls on, they will come up and they will say, Lucy, Ethel, Thelma, Louise, and everybody's going, what is she talking about?
Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. I'm so glad that Noemi ended up
Yes.
introducing us.
Mm-hmm,
Yes, we
mm-hmm,
definitely had have fun here. So please take this
mm-hmm.
time. I have never had anybody bring a
A
prosthetic,
boob. Bring a
a
boob.
boob,
Mm-hmm. They
or
might
any
be a
other
boob.
prosthetic, but definitely not a boob, on the show and tell before. So thank you for being my first. It might be a trend, who knows? But now for this part, I'd love to invite you to share a little bit about your important healing work in the world and how people can find a little bit more about you.
Well, again, thank you so much. Yeah, so to be a little serious, I started an initiative. It's been about 2.5 years ago, called Trying Not to Die.live. And that is the website. So www.tryingnottodie.live. And it's all about empowering anyone who is on a journey with cancer to embrace their inner warrior. That's very important. Their inner warrior, so that they build a tribe, energize their voices, and expand their choices. And so I help them through this process, whether they have cancer themselves or are supporting someone who has cancer. And the name comes from the fact that when we have something very serious that's going on, we get so caught up in trying to not die that we forget that we have to live. Sometimes it's 5 hours, sometimes it's 50 years. But what are we going to do with that time that we have left? I know that, because my cancer diagnosis is stage 4. So my official is stage 4 triple positive metastatic breast cancer. And then I've had 2 other cancers since then. And so I know that my expiration date probably got moved up. But I ignore that, right? And would we want to know, really? And so how do we live each day to the fullest? Am I grumpy on occasion? Yes. Ask my husband. Um, but it is all about how can we bring laughter and joy to everything we do. And one of the things I really try and do is to do things that make my caregivers laugh. I have another name, because every time you go in, what's your name? What's your date of birth? And now I don't do this to new people because it totally freaks them out. But I tell them Anastasia Beaverhausen. And I don't know where that came from. It actually does exist somewhere. I think it might have been on Will and Grace or something. But yeah, so I'm Anastasia Beaverhausen. And they have decided in my infusion room that it's Princess Anastasia Beaverhausen. So now, of course, we must do the Queen wave, right? And so I had surgery a couple months ago, and I had told them I'm Anastasia Beaverhausen. And so as they're carting me off on the bed to the surgical suite, of course, there I am in the halls. Hello. And the funny thing was how many people waved back. They're like, maybe she needs one of those special jackets.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love that it's live.
Live. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
So it's like trying not to die. And
Mhm.
it's such an important, I think that is one of the main reasons why I love the death care community.
Mhm.
Um, Death doulas,
Mhm.
anybody that's
Mhm.
in that death
Right.
education, end of
Mhm.
life planning, all of that. Um, because it and I'm part of an organization called Let's Reimagine,
Mhm.
and it's an online platform that
Mhm.
where hundreds of people offer different types of
Mhm.
workshops and
Mhm.
things, mostly virtual at this time.
Mhm.
But it's Let's Reimagined end
Mhm.
of life, and their
Mhm.
main thing is that if we can face death
Mhm.
and embrace it as opposed to being afraid of it,
Mhm.
we
Right.
can live better.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
can live more and
Right.
we can appreciate what's there. We can
Mhm.
love people better. We can
Mhm.
tell people that we love them
Right.
more
Oh, you tell
easily.
people. Tell
Tell
people you love them.
people.
Or at least, folks, say thank you when you get your coffee.
I absolutely love that. I think that's probably a wrap. I will, without a doubt, have all of this information in the show notes on this. And I'm looking at like even the things that you have behind you as
Mhm.
well, and just thinking about these little Care Bears.
And
And,
we have things. We have things that matter to us, and we surround ourselves with those.
yeah, yeah. So I love your background. I love your sense of humor, and I love you being the first person to bring a prosthetic on, and especially a prosthetic boob,
Mhm.
and
A
for
purple one.
a purple one, no less. That could be a little pillow for you. I,
Mhm.
I love it. I like the knitted one. And
Mhm.
what was the company's name again that did make that?
Knittedknockers.org.
I love it. I love it. I'll have that information in
Mhm.
the show notes
Oh,
as well.
lovely. Mhm.
Yes. And so thank you everyone for joining us for today's episode of Things That Matter. And I invite you again to think about it's not that things matter, it's that things have can hold on to stories that matter. Just think about this knitted knocker and the story it tells, right? But everything we surround
Mhm.
ourselves. So think about your life, the people in your life, ask questions. If they're not people who come out with stories easily, ask them, just see what's around them and say, "Hey, can you tell me what the story is
Mhm.
of this thing? How did it come into your life? What's its importance? Why do you keep it?" Just encourage you to please go out there and share your stories and ask and invite people to tell their stories to you about the things that matter. So, thanks again and have a wonderful rest of your day or time.